gonna be a League of Legends live action movie. I don't know how I feel about that. It might be really cringe or really good. And I've been playing League a lot. I might do a stream. I've been streaming a lot of League of Legends in my Discord because we've been doing a lot of community nights. So I might even have like some League streams coming in the future and some collabs with some League of Legends content creators.
More thunder, more about them later in the video. See, over the years it was proven again and again that the music and media company Riot can also sometimes make good games. But their specialty is definitely cinematic media, as is obvious from the quality. Jokes aside, ever since the original reveal of Arcane, Riot has been really good at keeping the hype around it up pretty much till today. But while all the eyes were on Arcane as their main cinematic...
When are we gonna get the second season? It's been fucking forever. Didn't it come out during the pandemic?
...project, many people failed to realize that something else might have been secretly developed in the background. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that Riot is likely working on a live-action movie. This was originally teased quite a while ago, but recently it was pretty much confirmed in Riot's latest post about the company's reconstructions. Now, simply mentioning live action in the gaming sphere is very scary, and we'll get to why later in this video. First, we have to cover why people believe there is a live-action movie in the works. And it all begins more than 3 years ago in April 2021, a whole 7 months before the release.
Well, it's probably like 2 different teams that are working on these things. And apparently they do all of the Arcane like themselves. I don't think they outsourced all of it, but I'm not sure on that.
Of Arcane 1. Of course, the original job listings have been taken down since then, but thankfully there are a lot of posts on Reddit that archived all of it. Anyway, that's right, it all began before Arcane 1 was even out, which is why all of this was masked so well. Back then, Riot started looking for the global head to lead live-action movies and TV. Now remember the specific title of this job, because it will come up later. And the reason why originally people didn't really think much of it is because around this time people still had no idea what Arcane would be like. Which means most people thought that this is simply related.
Bro, we all thought it was gonna be like as bad as the Warcraft movie or some shit, but then it was so incredible that even people that don't know anything about League of Legends were this appealed to them. It's good enough of a product to stand on its own 2 feet. And honestly, Piltover is not even like my favorite city or the lore in League of Legends, but I thought they did such a great job with it. I really want them to do something about Ionia, like Aurelia's land. I think that would be so cool, or something involving Silas, but I hope they do that in the future. Like, I freaking love that. I love their lore. It's so good.
To some more niche jobs around Arcane, or even a job that could be looking at how Arcane can move on. So most people didn't believe Riot had more projects that would be in the works at the same time, but rather...
Aurelia is best girl. Like, she reminds me, I don't know why, her story kind of reminds me a little bit of Lord of the Rings. Like, she's protecting her city. A lot of people still have their hots for Jinx, but it's not gonna last forever. They need sequels out. Oh man, it's true. I remember now. Elon Musk tweeted back then about Jinx, and he was like saying that I think she was his type back then. I don't think he would say that nowadays. I feel like he probably wouldn't, but who knows. My favorite character, all the guys like Jinx, but because she's crazy. Do you guys like Jinx? My favorite character was... Who was my favorite character? I can't recall. I think it was Victor. I liked Victor. But I thought what he did at the end was kind of... When he got too much into his experiment, it was disappointing of him. He disappointed me. But I really liked his character. I also really liked... I loved Heimerdinger. He was so cute, man. Heimer was actually one of my favorite characters. He didn't have such a big role as the others, but I thought he was great. Yeah, he atomized his girlfriend. I didn't like that part. I was like, no, Victor, no. That's so bad. That's so bad. I like the Kate Vi arc. If their thing, their Yuri session wasn't even cringe. It was actually well done, I think.
They thought all of these jobs were related to Arcane. They were simply not ready to go to war with the idea that something was going on. And speaking of war never
No, it's War
changes.
Thunder. War Thunder is cool. They sponsored me before. I should ask them if they want to sponsor me again. Hello, War Thunder, I'm right there.
Back to other kinds of live action. So it was the end of 2021.
I'm gonna
Riot
message
was
my
filling up some
agent.
sketchy live action positions. And at this time, Riot already announced Arcane 2. Which means people somehow remained skeptical. And they still believed that all of these jobs could be related to Arcane. But then, besides just looking for someone to work in this field, Riot's then CEO, Nicolo, revealed Riot's plans for the next 5 years. And here we can find some interesting mentions. For example, we got this quote. Looking at the next few years, sure, we'll launch other games, there will be Arcane Season 2, maybe more, and a bunch of surprises. Of course, related to Arcane 2. This means that at that time, Riot either wasn't sure if there would be more seasons of Arcane, or Nicolo knew that it would be only 2 seasons and he didn't want to spoil it. But then, most importantly, Nicolo also set up the goals for the next 5 years. And among these goals, we have this. Unleash fandom. We'll create groundbreaking gameplay, game events, and features to refine fandom across esports, TV, movies, music, live experiences, merch, and more. And here, people started getting suspicious, because neither movies nor TV really describes Arcane. But at the same time, cinematic experiences or animations were not mentioned at all. Though that could be because Arcane 2 was directly mentioned before.
We need a new KDA
Regardless,
album.
This is where the gears
Yeah, bring back KDA, bro. Bring back KDA.
started spinning and people started noticing that not everything lines up towards Arcane only. In fact, it seemed like Riot was forging their own cinematic universe in the background. Though even now, we technically don't know if it is related to League. The funny thing is, it can also be some live action for Valorant for all we know. But that finally takes us to the big news from 2 weeks ago.
We need the KDA plus True Damage collabs. No! Males and females cannot collab. Hello? Yeah, keep the girls separated.
Update from Riot as a company called "We are updating our internal structure to better connect games with esports, music, and publishing." That title rolls off the tongue. And this is where things are getting interesting. Because the first piece of news we got here is that John Needham, who was the president of esports at Riot, now moved on to be the president of publishing and esports. Meaning that besides esports and technology, he will oversee pretty much all kinds of media, from music to cinematic stuff. And the post then continues. Riot's TV and film development will now be led through 2 distinct studios, run by Christian Link, animation. This of course is the showrunner and the co-creator of Arcane, I'm pretty sure everyone knows him,
Can we cast Timothée Chalamet as Hui?
and Brian Wright, live action. Yeah, remember how in 2021 they were looking for the head of live action movies and TV? Well, 3 years later, not only did they find someone, but here's your confirmation that live action is happening. And we get this quote on top of it. With 2 focused entertainment studios, players will get to see a world beyond Arcane in fresh and immersive ways. Which further confirms that we are likely not dealing with animations here anymore. We are moving on to other cinematic styles. With at least one nail in this theory being this quote. Separately, we are creating two distinct entertainment studios that will allow for more dedicated resources and greater focus on both animation excellence and the exploration of live action projects. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for a direct quote that would confirm it, here it is. Live action is happening. But we are still not done because there is one last quote that we can mention here. At the very bottom of the post, we get a short background for each of the heads of the studios. Here we can learn about John Needham, Christian Ling, but most importantly, we also learn about the head of live action, Brian Wright. And here it says, Brian will lead the development of new live action projects as the head of Riot's live action studio.
Oh, he's launched a few good series like Stranger Things. I actually liked Shadow and Bone. The Umbrella Academy was like interesting for the first season somewhat because we didn't have anything else to watch, and then I felt like it really fell off.
Since joining Riot in 2021, shortly before Arcane's global launch, Brian has been developing a slate of potential projects based on our existing lore and narrative. First of all, since it mentions 2021, it absolutely means he got in from the original job listing.
Yeah, I fell apart. Oh, thank God I'm not the only one. I thought I was maybe just being lazy, not finishing the series, but I was just like, I'm never in the mood to watch it. I don't know, they can't get my attention.
But also it mentions that Brian is working on projects based off of Riot's lore. The thing is, League is still not directly mentioned, so there could be a tiny chance that it is based off of Valorant. However, before this it mentioned that they will be exploring stories beyond Arcane, which could hint we are still dealing with the League of Legends universe. But then the post still goes on. Prior to Riot Games, he was at Netflix, where he was the head of family and young adult programming, launching successful series such as...
Yeah, the writing was always like meh, and it's like, it has that feel, I can't put my finger on it, chat. It's that feel of fantasy shows that are kind of cheesy. They're never gonna be... I don't know if it's because we're spoiled by Game of Thrones, like high production budgets. But at the same time, if you're good at managing resources and you know where to make an impact, you actually don't need that much budget to make your production look high-end.
Stranger Things, The Umbrella Academy, and Shadow and Bone. Now first things first, Netflix was mentioned. And here we know that Riot already had
There was a fantasy show, by the way, that I feel like it never got another season, where it was about the guy that's... What was it again? The guy that puts people to sleep. He's like the sleep merchant. The Sandman. And that was actually pretty interesting.
Good relationship with Netflix. I mean, even prior to become the #1 Netflix show all around the world, Riot was able to strike a deal with them so that people could stream the first 3 episodes.
It is getting a season 2, bro. That show was forever ago, wasn't it? It feels like an eternity ago.
Of Arcane as they launched. That was a really big deal. And besides that, it mentioned that Brian launched Stranger Things, The Umbrella Academy, and Shadow and Bone. You know what all of these have in common? They are all technically live action, but they also have fantasy elements, which is pretty much exactly what we can find in the League of Legends universe. And here is where I want to mention the one last thing that I mentioned at the very beginning of this video.
I don't know, they need to get good actors if they do this with League, because I don't know if it's the direction or the acting, but Stranger Things had a great cast. The Umbrella Academy was meh, and Shadow and Bone, there was like one actor that I liked that I've seen in other stuff, but the other ones didn't really carry it for me.
Live action movies are scary.
Yes.
Because they rarely succeed around video games. And I can't think of a better comparison than the Warcraft movie here.
Yeah, I thought about it.
It was a live-action movie from a heavy fantasy universe, where the live-action and the CGI is pretty good. but the story is not that great. But thankfully, Riot is kinda good at dealing with this. First of all, Arcane proved that they know how to handle a complex story. And they can even simplify it for the broader audience.
Bye, Shark.
Yes, I said it. Considering all the stories that are happening all around Zone, Arcane is definitely a simplified version of the story this universe can offer. I mean, Riot still definitely has a pool of at least 15 more characters that they could put into Arcane. So, I don't believe their live action is gonna fall into the trap of their story not being great for the broader audience. And at the same time, it is worth mentioning that Riot is really good at breaking video game curses. I mean, before Arcane, there has never really been a mainstream media that broke out into the world that would be based on a video game. Essentially, all the video game movies were cursed. But after Arcane, all the movie producers realized that they can make a good movie based on a video game. But that is if they keep their focus.
That's the coolest Jim Carrey ever looked. After the mask, of course.
Around the core of the video game. And suddenly, we got one good movie after another. So now, we have to put a bit of trust in Riot and
Is it that good? I haven't seen the Sonic movie. Really?
Hope that they can break.
I haven't seen the Mario one either.
The live action curse too. And so, here you have it. Some pretty big news and the confirmation that there is gonna be some live action stuff. Whether it's a Netflix series or a movie, we still don't know.
We're on the third Sonic film. Where have I been? I think I don't know if I'm very really in the mood for animation movies because I feel like they're gonna have that light Pixar vibe, and I like watching more heavy stuff, I guess, or more like gritty, serious stuff. I think like I rarely watch comedies. Yeah, I hate fun. I don't know what to tell you, chat.
Certain, Riot is not afraid to burn a lot of money to make it great. And as a fun fact, there is also a theory floating around the internet that Riot might also be working on their own anime, which would be also jumping on a new trend that is pretty successful. So guys, you better start buying all the skins because we have to fund all of this somehow.